All right, folks, we have some fairly stunning breaking news. As we speak, Trump Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt and Trump Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, are wrapping up what is objectively the most disastrous White House press briefing of the second Trump administration, in which they, with visible desperation and frustration, try to spin a bullshit conspiracy theory about President Obama in a desperate attempt to distract from the Epstein files, and it ends in total failure because questions are asked about Jeffrey Epstein regardless. This is stunning, but before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, folks, we have several clips to play here. Tulsi Gabbard has no substantive answer to any perfectly valid question here. It is so transparently obvious what they're trying to do, and you can see it etched on their faces. They are frustrated by the failure. We're going to start with this clip here.
And it was cooked up and paid for by the Clinton campaign. As for your second question, Caitlin, I think who is saying that she would release this to try to boost her standing with the president? Who has said that?
Well, the president has publicly undermined her when it came to Iran. He said she was wrong. He told me that she didn't know what she was talking about. That was on Air Force One on camera.
The only people who are suggesting that the Director of National Intelligence would release evidence to try to boost her standing with the president are the people in this room who constantly try to sow distrust and chaos amongst the president's cabinet, and it is not working. I will just answer your question directly. I am with the President of the United States every day. He has the utmost confidence in Director Gabbard. He always has. He continues to, and that is true of his entire cabinet, who is all working as one team to deliver on the promises this president made. Does that?
So she's pissed, okay? And again, that's actually towards the end. It's just to illustrate how upset they are that people are just not buying this hook, line, and sinker. And again, we're actually going to skip towards the end again, just almost like a shot chaser moment. So here they are trying to spin this bullshit conspiracy theory about President Obama, but the questions inevitably return to Jeffrey Epstein.
On Jeffrey Epstein, can you rule out that he was connected in some way to any kind of intelligence, either foreign or domestic?
I haven't seen any evidence or information that reflects that. If anything comes before me that changes that in any way, support the president's statement loud and clear. If any credible evidence comes forward, he wants the American people to see it.
Great.
So okay, look at that. Like, shit, they asked about Epstein anyway. It's just not working. This is only going to magnify the scandal even further, especially because they've handled questions about this bullshit conspiracy theory so incompetently. It might be different if Gabbard had the wherewithal and the wit to actually give compelling answers to these questions, but as you're about to see, she doesn't.
The Senate Intelligence Committee spent several years looking into this and unanimously agreed in a bipartisan fashion, Secretary of State Rubio was a member of that committee, that there was no political interference. There was a years-long Justice Department investigation into this as well that also concluded no political interference. So help us, from a 50,000-foot level, explain, what do you now have that refutes those two?
Sure, I will.
So again, before we get to our answer, I just want to emphasize this. It's not just Obama's intelligence agencies that concluded that Russia did indeed attempt to interfere in the 2016 election and that it was largely to Donald Trump's benefit. That assessment was confirmed by congressional Republicans in both the House and the Senate, including current Secretary of State Marco Rubio and a Trump-appointed special investigator or Inspector General John Durham. So the evidence, the preponderance of evidence is overwhelming. And you're going to see Gabbard does not know what to do with this.
I'll encourage you, in my role as the Director of National Intelligence, my job, again, as I said when I came into this role, was to make sure that we are telling the truth to the American people and that we are ensuring that the intelligence community is not being politicized. So I'm not asking you to take my word for it. I'm asking you in the media to conduct honest journalism and the American people to see for yourself in the documents that we've released now, close to 200 pages, that point in multiple references, multiple examples, to include comments that have been made by senior intelligence professionals who are some still working within these agencies today that confirm the conclusions that we have drawn, that President Obama directed an intelligence community assessment to be created to further this contrived false narrative.
Do you see how she's not able to answer the question? I'm not trying to politicize anything. I'm just saying, I'm just restating my initial claim. Okay, well, Can you explain the differences between the claim that that has been debunked by multiple Republican-led congressional attempts? Can you explain this? All I can do is just restate the claim. That doesn't cut it. She doesn't have the ability to answer these questions competently, especially when Rubio himself is implicated.
John.
Thanks, Karoline. Thanks, Director Gabbard. You declassified these documents, if I'm not mistaken, Friday of last week, correct?
We released them on Friday of last week, the first tranche, yes.
This isn't the first time that President Trump has been president of the United States. He was president from 2017 to 2021. Couldn't the prior DNI under President Trump have declassified these documents? And why didn't that DNI do that at that time?
I can't speak to what happened there. There were several DNIs under the first Trump administration. President Trump faced many challenges from those who were working in the government who sought to undermine his presidency. That's been clearly detailed. What I can speak to is the fact that this was one of the first things that we started to investigate here within this Trump administration.
So again, she can't answer the question. It's probably just sabotage. I mean, people were working against Trump. Again, no satisfying direct answer to the question. And then she has to pivot back to restating the claim for which she has no evidence. Here's another clip.
Maybe either for you or Caroline. The president said yesterday that Obama committed treason. Do you or the White House believe that the Supreme Court's immunity decision protects Obama from prosecution?
Look, I can speak to the president's feelings on this matter. He spoke to all of you yesterday in the Oval Office, but I also spoke to him about this morning. And he wants to see all those who perpetuated this fraud against our country, who betrayed our country and the Constitution, to be thoroughly investigated and held accountable. And it's been 10 years of this. And I would just add, based on everything the director has said and declassified, all of you in this room should go through it and take a look at this report and review the intelligence, because unfortunately that hasn't happened.
And again, she just filibusts like this for another minute, right? More than a minute, damn near a minute and 30 seconds. She never addresses the question like, okay, well, if you're saying these things about Obama, are you going to prosecute him? What about the presidential immunity thing? She could have said, well, President Trump has been very clear he would like to see former President Obama investigated. And yes, if a prosecutor was to bring the case against the former president, they would have to contend with the Supreme Court immunity. Like, she doesn't even address it because, this is a spoiler, I don't think they're really interested in prosecuting Obama. I think they'd love to. I want to be clear. I think that they would love to prosecute former President Obama or former President Biden. They just know that they don't have the goods to do this, and they would fall flat on their faces. So that's why they're not committing to prosecuting President Obama. And so instead, she has to filibuster for 2 minutes. Why don't you guys look through the files? Okay, well, that has nothing to do with what I asked, lady. Why don't you answer the question? Here's another clip.
Thank you. Question for Director Gabbard. A spokesperson for former President Obama said in a statement earlier this week, quote, "Nothing in the documents issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 election, but did not successfully manipulate any votes." How do you respond to critics like former President Obama and also others on the Hill who say that the administration is conflating apples and oranges here, conflating allegations of actual hacking of voter machines and allegations of interference generally?
I think it's a disservice to the American people that former President Obama's office and others who are criticizing the transparency that is being delivered by releasing these documents. They are doing a disservice to the American people and trying to deflect away from their culpability in what is a historic scandal and negative action towards the American people and our democratic republic. The answer to that statement can very clearly be found throughout all of the documents that we have released. Again, showing that Russia has took action to try to sow discord in the election, but showed no preference for or against any singular candidate.
What actions did Russia take to meaningfully move against the Trump campaign? They hacked the DNC. They leaked damaging information about Hillary Clinton. Trump openly invited them to do so. We know that the Russia, internet agency, I'm blanking on the name, the internet agency was, fomenting anti-Clinton chaos. So if you have the evidence that, Russia was being totally egalitarian and they had no preferred particular victor in the 2016 election, present the evidence. They can't point to any. And notice how, again, she doesn't answer the question. She doesn't answer it. Because what Obama said is, you guys are conflating apples and oranges. We never claimed that Russia hacked election infrastructure to manipulate votes from one candidate to the other, like switching on or off. What we claimed is that Russia attempted to influence the 2016 election. Those are the apples and oranges. And note how she doesn't say, no, actually, here's how. That's not what they claimed. They claimed this instead, and we're refuting it. All she can do is just, and you see it, like you can hear it in her voice. She's frustrated. She's worried. She's panicked. All she can do is instead just like make virtue signals to appeal to. The former president is insulting the American people by refuting my straw man. And like, I wish he wouldn't do that. It's pathetic. Here's another clip.
You've long been an opponent of weaponization in government. How do you respond to criticism that referring Obama administration officials and even potentially the former president is just more weaponization and this is a potential race to the bottom?
I think that's a very disrespectful attack on the American people who deserve the truth. They deserve to have faith and trust in the integrity of our democratic republic, which has been undermined by President Obama through his direction of this manufactured fake intelligence document, knowing that it was filled with lies and knowing that it would and could then be used for all of the actions that came after.
Karoline?
It doesn't actually answer the question. It's asking that question insults the American people, and I don't like it. I don't want you to ask questions about that. You're hurting the American people's feelings. And actually, Karoline Leavitt jumps in here with performative outrage.
And I would just add, there needs to be accountability for that weaponization, Phil, that we've seen. And no one has been a victim of the weaponized government more than President Trump, not just because of this political scandal. You all recall his house was raided.
His house was raided when he was out of town, so he had advance notice. They did it to be the least embarrassing to him as possible, number one. Number two, and it was raided in the first place because there was credible evidence that he was obstructing justice over the willful retention of national defense information, which he was not permitted to have. So, again, it's just so hilarious. They have no direct refutation of the questions being asked and the arguments being presented. Here's another clip.
Two questions for Director Gabbard, just on this. Director Gabbard, you referenced the past intelligence reports and assessments on this, including that 2017 one that was signed off, as Ed noted, by every Republican on the Senate Intelligence Community, including the acting chair of the time, now Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who said in a statement that they did not find any evidence of Russian collusion, but they did find, however, is very troubling, and they found irrefutable evidence of Russian meddling. One, are you saying that he's wrong in that statement that he made then? And secondly, what would you say to people who believe that you're only releasing these documents now to improve your standing with the president after he said that your intelligence assessments were wrong?
You just see Leavitt's pissed. Leavitt's so pissed. She's like wanting to scrap with Caitlin Collins. But great questions, both.
Well, first, I want to correct something that you stated, which was citing the Senate Intelligence Committee's report as being one and the same. I think you said the intelligence community. The Senate Intelligence Committee has a very different function than the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. The evidence and the intelligence that has been declassified and released is irrefutable. I'm going to let Karoline speak to Secretary Rubio.
I'll speak to both questions. First, on Secretary Rubio, he put out a statement in 2020 following that Senate Intelligence Committee report, and he said what they found is troubling. We found irrefutable evidence of Russian meddling, which the Director of National Intelligence just confirmed for all of you, that Russia was trying to sow distrust and chaos. But what's the outrage in this that Secretary Rubio did not say at the time, the Democrats were saying at the time, is the fact that the intelligence community was concocting this narrative that the president colluded with the Russians, that the president's son was holding secret meetings with the Russians.
And while Democratic politicians might have been claiming that, like Rachel Maddow or Adam Schiff, Barack Obama, number one, didn't claim that, and number two, didn't falsify evidence to indicate that. He didn't falsify. Again, there's no evidence of that. You don't have any evidence. It's been refuted by people reviewing the documents that they've declassified, which is why Obama responded the way he did. They might have a point, if they can prove that Obama doctored an intelligence report to say, and by the way, Donald Trump and Russia were working together to manipulate the American people, but that was never the central claim. That was never a claim made by the Obama administration. That might have been the claim made by some MSNBC pundits, but that has nothing to do with President Obama, and certainly not indicative of some sort of treasonous coup by Obama. So again, they can't directly answer the question.
Democracy.
And then just quickly, I know you said you would leave the charging to DOJ, but the statute of limitations on conspiracy is 5 years. So what else could they possibly pursue besides treason?
I think that's a great question for Attorney General Pam Bondi. We're providing all of the evidence, all of the intelligence that we have, both redacted and unredacted versions.
So it's just like, it's a total shit show. And again, to really drive the point home, I'm going to play 3 more clips real quick just to show that it didn't work, because they're still getting questions about Jeffrey Epstein in real time. So here's another clip of after Tulsi goes on this ridiculous screed of Karoline Leavitt getting questions about Jeffrey Epstein.
Go ahead.
A Florida federal judge has refused to allow the Epstein grand jury materials to be released. Does the president want the administration or Department of Justice to appeal that ruling?
That was just breaking as the director and I were coming out here, so I haven't had a chance to talk to the president about it. I understand there are 2 other requests from the Department of Justice that are ongoing, but I'll let this president speak to whether he wants to see an appeal.
So they won't even commit. Oh, you want transparency, but you're not even going to commit to appealing the decision to release the grand jury information, which you promised you would do. And even though that comprises just about 1% of the so-called Epstein files, they can't even commit to that performatively. Here's another question about the Epstein files.
Appropriate idea. Kelly.
What is the accountability that you would like to see if...
Oh, maybe this is the question about Obama, and then the last clip is about Epstein.
The current president is the one who brought the case to the Supreme Court, and Chief Justice Roberts made clear in his opinion that a sitting president's responsibilities in office cannot lead to prosecution, immunity. So what is it the President Trump wants regarding President Obama, given that fact? And the special counsel at the time, Durham, when that Supreme Court matter was not in effect, could have charged anyone and did not. So on those 2 points, how do you respond?
Look, the president has made it clear that he wanted these documents to be declassified. He wanted the American people to see the truth, and now he wants those who perpetuated these lies and this scandal to be held accountable. As for what accountability looks like, as the director said, it's in the Department of Justice's hands, and we trust them to move this ball.
So again, they have no answer. You would think like, hell yeah, we want Obama prosecuted. We think he committed treason. They can't even do that. It's just so laughable. One last clip, and again, because it goes back to Epstein.
And my second question, just, obviously the developments with the Epstein case with the judge, but I wonder, has the White House counsel, the DOJ explored any other documents that could be released to the public that don't have to do with that grand jury testimony?
To my knowledge, the Department of Justice has moved forward with the request to unseal that grand jury testimony, and as you know, they have also moved forward with interviewing Ms. Maxwell, which I believe will be taking place very soon.
So again, folks, this was an utter disaster, even by Trump White House briefing standards. Tulsi Gabbard was visibly uncomfortable, visibly desperate, visibly panicked. Karoline Leavitt was visibly pissed and also visibly frustrated, because not only were they unable to cogently, competently, directly answer any of the questions, it also failed because people are still asking about Jeffrey Epstein. Total, absolute failure that people should relentlessly mock this administration, and those 2 in particular, in addition to Trump, over 4 years to come. Total failure. So let's revel in their despair. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.